Rome is a vast city where millions live and millions more visit each year. In Rome, you can walk just about anywhere you need to go. Shopping, eating, and visiting historical monuments are accessible by means of convenient walking. In the last 50 years or so, the city has seen an influx of private automobiles that have shaken up the city's urban fabric. What once was a city renowned for its accessibility and ease of walking has turned into a complexity of parked cars, traffic jams, and blocked roads. Rome must implement a shift back to a city of walking, micromobility, and public transit. A city that doesn't rely as heavily on cars will create a safer urban environment, reduce greenhouse emissions, and allow for a city that is enjoyed in a more intimate manner. To understand the transportation systems in Rome today, it is important to look at how the city has been traveled throughout its history. Rome has a rich history of transportation and is well known for their system of roads that spanned from the city to parts of Europe, Asia, and Africa. This infrastructure of roads was vital to the development of the Roman Empire. The road system allowed for Roman armies, officials, civilians, and trades goods to move great distances overland. The Roman roads began development around 300 BC and continued expanding for several centuries well into the Roman Empire's reign. Among the ways Romans would travel on these ancient roads, walking was the most common way. But, if one could afford it, carriages and chariots were a faster option to move from place to place. Romans would travel in a reta, a carriage with iron-shod wheels, several wooden benches inside for the passengers, and drawn by horses or mules. The reta was the equivalent of the bus today. It could carry a large group of people. Wealthier Romans traveled in the carpendum, a more luxurious carriage than the reta. The carpendum was also pulled by many horses, had a wooden arched rooftop, comfortable cushioned seats, and even some form of suspension to make the ride more comfortable. Romans also had what would be the equivalent of our trucks today, the plastrum. The plastrum could carry heavy loads. It had a wooden board with thick wheels and was drawn by 2 oxen. It was very slow and could travel only about 15 to 25 kilometers per day. The fastest way to travel from Rome was by horse relay or the cursus publicus, which was like a state-run postal service and a service used to transport officials. A series of stations with fresh and rapid horses were built at short regular intervals along the major road systems. Due to Rome being a young capital city, it was late on the public transit boom of the early 20th century. The metro was only opened in 1955 and has grown slowly since, only operating at 60 kilometers of lines. There are currently 3 operating metro lines, with a 4th on the way. Progress is slow to build new metro lines due to the archaeological remains found when tunneling. Since the metro lines of Rome are rather limited, citizens and tourists use the bus public transport system to get to certain parts of the city. It is certainly not the most comfortable or punctual form of transportation. However, to get to certain monuments and museums, it is essential to use the bus. Rome has 338 bus lines that run throughout the day, 22 night buses, and 8,260 stops. As traffic is an important issue in Rome, buses are often delayed, and it is common to get stuck in traffic jams at any time of the day. Currently, Rome has a fleet of buses that includes electric, conventional, diesel, and hybrid vehicles. Rome is and has always been a walkable city. The public transit systems mentioned before are efficient systems, yet they are competing with the growing number of automobiles and the congestion in the city caused by the cars. Change is needed in the transportation systems in Rome, and there are several new innovative methods that can restore Rome's beautiful streets.
Antonio Tamburino, a transportation consultant with the Club of Rome, has done extensive research on the city's problems and how they might be solved through what he is calling the 5-ring plan.
Il traffico a Roma ha un problema fondamentale. Il trasporto pubblico è troppo poco ed è fatto troppo male e quindi viceversa c'è troppo trasporto privato. L'obiettivo fondamentale pedonalizzazione 100%, non solo isole pedonali, no? Con il distributore e con la passeggiata di Iberina sostanzialmente ho coperto tutto.
The 5-ring plan gets its name from the 4 rings of new transit which encompass the city, along with a 5th form of transit running along the Tiber River. The plan consists of a light metro inner ring, followed by an inner road ring, new rail ring, and finally the Super GRA. A new tram line also carries passengers along the Tiber River. Propositions are neatly shown in colorful diagrams produced by Antonio Tamburino, outlining old and new transportation within the city. In the image shown, a red overlay delineates the area of the planned pedestrianization of the city's historic center, returning the streets of Rome to how they were meant to be. Another image shows the boundary of this new pedestrian space in red, along with the current public transportation coverage in orange and the proposed coverage in green. Finally, in this diagram, Tamburino outlines what is being called the Passeggiata Tiberina, or Tiber Walk, a tram that connects this historic center with other locations up and downstream. Elon Musk, CEO of Tesla and SpaceX, has another idea in mind for solving transportation issues.
What this is really all about is advancing the state of transportation, trying new things that have never been done before that can make an incredible difference to people's lives.
The fundamental issue with roads is that you have a 2D transport system and a 3D living and workspace environment. And so that obviously is not going to work. You're going to have traffic guaranteed. But if you can go 3D on your transport system, then you can solve all traffic. And you can either go 3D up with a flying car, or you can go 3D down with tunnels.
Elon's loop tunnels would allow pedestrians and cyclists alike to travel in autonomous electronic vehicles which travel rapidly in underground tunnels. Like the five-ring plan, these tunnels could be used to make downtown Rome a primarily pedestrian space, clearing the streets and making them safer. Already, loop projects have been proposed in Hawthorne, California, Las Vegas, Nevada, and Los Angeles, California, as well as a project on the East Coast from Washington, D.C. to Baltimore. The project is also promising for Rome, in that it will not need to disrupt its archaeological layer, as these vehicles can be lowered and raised through small incisions in the city's urban fabric. While very exciting, this plan would take many years to pass and complete in the historical city of Rome. But in the meantime, there are other low-tech solutions that might also produce promising results. Tom Rankin, professor of architecture for Cal Poly and the Universidad de Roma, outlines a few other ways that the traffic problems could be solved in Rome, from his 2015 book, Rome Works.
First of all, if all the cars that are parked in violation of city ordinances were actually fined, then the city would have enough money in its coffers to cover bike paths, repairs, improving pedestrian space throughout the city. One of the reasons that the traffic police, I've noticed, rarely give tickets is because they're too busy directing traffic. Standing at a traffic light, pressing the button to turn red and green. That should be automated. They might say they're trying to help the traffic flow, but that's the last thing we should be doing in the city, is helping the traffic flow. If the traffic doesn't flow, people will think about using other means of transportation.
And that's exactly what Federico Orsini, an architect living and working in Rome, does.
I use the bike because it's the only way to move in Rome in a speedy way.
Unfortunately, while this may be the quickest way to get around, it comes with risks due to traffic, causing about 27 traffic accidents every hour, according to Rome Works. Tom Rankin goes on to point out a possible solution.
What if parking were actually a reasonable price, as it is in many other cities? I remember in Boston it costs like $25 or $30 to park anywhere for the day. If you think about the cost of real estate, a parking spot is 10 square meters of space in the center of the city. It should be a valuable commodity.
As Tom Rankin explains, this extra money from increased parking fares and enforcement of parking laws could maybe raise the money to make advancements, creating safer places for both pedestrians and bicyclists. Unquestionably, the introduction of the private vehicle and infrastructure needed for its operation has negatively impacted the city of Rome. Whether the solution be the five-ring plan, Elon's loop tunnels, or simply stronger enforcement of vehicular laws, it is clear that something must be done in order to solve this transportation crisis. As originally intended, we must shift back to a city of walking, micromobility, and public transit, saving pedestrian lives, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and making the city a safer place.